Oh, Heidi said, awesome discussion in our breakout. Oh, thanks for sharing, Heidi. All right, so again, welcome. Some folks joined while others were in the breakout rooms, but um, today we started off aiming to build connections, so that's kind of what we did with those breakout rooms. We're going to talk about upcoming policy for some legislation for the 2025 session. We're also gonna do kind of a year in review and look at some of the accomplishments from 2024, and then go into some of the goals for 2025. And yeah, that's what we have on our agenda for today. And now we'll go to partner updates. Um, I don't believe we have anyone from the state, from the Bureau of Family Assistance here, but I'll pause in case I didn't see them and they are here. All right, I think we can go to the next update. So I will pass it over to Laura to give SNAP Coalition updates.
Laura, we can't hear you.
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just before I talk about the SNAP Coalition, I just want to let people know what's going on. Summer EBT for 2024 happened between November and December. I have requested data on how many kids were able to access the benefits and have not heard back yet from the state. We are told on the Elderly Simplified Application Project, we are told that the department is working on it. We've asked for a meeting with members of the SNAP Coalition and advocates for older adults and people with disabilities who would be affected, and also have not heard back. So I know the state's capacity is very low right now, so we are hoping to get that set up really soon, and we'll let you know more when we do. The SNAP Coalition, I think we didn't meet, so it's been 2 months, right? This group didn't meet in December. So at the November, no, wait a minute. Yes, at the November meeting, we talked about student access to SNAP, and a number of the community colleges were there, which resulted in further training on SNAP for colleges that New Hampshire Legal Assistance did just, I think, last week, which was great. And then this month we talked about the policy work that's on the agenda at the state and federal levels. The federal level is not good for SNAP, and we're watching to see how that plays out. There are proposals for very significant cuts to SNAP and other entitlement programs, to Medicaid, to TANF, that certainly will affect food insecurity in New Hampshire if they pass. So on that very cheery note, I'll pass it back to Tiffany. Please join us for all things SNAP. We'd love to have you come to the meetings, which are on the third Wednesday at 10.
Thanks, Laura.
Oh, sorry,
now,
Tara.
no worries. Mike had a question. Go ahead, Mike. You're on. There you go.
Hi. So I had an opportunity to ask this question of one of our state representatives yesterday, but I want to ask it to you as well. With regards to Medicaid Direct for student lunch programs, what concerns you have with regards to tying registration to Medicaid, which is in fact itself at some level of risk, especially if the federal government should, if the federal government reduces its reimbursements to New Hampshire, that triggers our state law to eliminate our expanded Medicaid. So I'm a little concerned about the domino effect of that and wanted to know your observations.
Yeah, most of the people who are on expanded Medicaid are not children. Almost all of them are adults. So it would not affect, so depending on what happens with Medicaid, and the most likely thing is that it will be block granted and capped. So Medicaid Direct certification directly certifies kids on Medicaid who are eligible for free and reduced meals. So that would be children up to 185% of poverty, which is a pretty low level. I think it's unlikely that children at those levels will be cut off of Medicaid. Anything is possible and we need to watch carefully, but I think that's unlikely. So I think that it's would still be okay to tie to Medicaid and and SNAP and TANF to have as few barriers as possible to kids accessing school meals. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know if other people have a different take.
Thanks.
And we'll be keeping people apprised of what happens at the federal level and how that affects food insecurity related things. So all of, of course, food insecurity is affected by increases in poverty, which cuts to Medicaid and to TANF will almost certainly increase.
All right. Thanks, Laura. We will now head to SNAP outreach updates from the New Hampshire Food Bank. I don't know if Meredith or Mary or Heidi is available to share any updates.
Sure, I can share some updates from the food bank. So our big news is that our SNAP outreach plan with the Department of Health and Human Services has been approved. So that means that the contract with the state can now be worked on further. So that is hoping to be put before Governor and Council in February. And I know their meeting dates are either, I believe, the 5th or the 26th. So hopefully by that time we will have an answer onto whether our contract will be approved, and we're hopeful that it will be approved, and we'll be able to we'll be able to renew our collaboration with Department of Health and Human Services, which would be great. So that's our big update as far as SNAP.
Thanks, Mary. And then I saw there's tomorrow there's a SNAP outreach workshop at noon. So now we'll move to child nutrition updates. And there are no new updates from the New Hampshire WIC team. So I will pass it over to Riona to share child nutrition updates.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So my name is Riona. I'm the Deputy Director over at Hunger Solutions. I'm overseeing our child nutrition work, and one of those items is the school meals and increasing school breakfast. So we are working with the most schools right now with the school breakfast challenge. We have about 35 to 40 schools across the state of New Hampshire this year, when last year we had about 9 to 15. Some are participating in the challenge in full, and some others, they are just creating some plans to increase their school breakfast and then participate in full next year. With that being said, since there's only one of me, I'm asking coalitions to come help support the school breakfast week celebrations for those schools who would like individuals in the school handing out swag, some goodies, in those areas in which the school breakfast challenge is happening. So if you are interested as an organization or an individual in your community who would like to participate to hand out items on one of the days between March 3rd and 5th of National School Breakfast Week, I'm just asking for help. So that is an ask. You can email me if you are willing to help, and I can link you up to the school that is participating in the challenge and would like to do taste testing, etc., or even just coming to just say congratulations to those schools. We are currently waiting on the data from the Department of Education for school breakfast across the state. They're about 60 days behind on the data just because of the close of the months. And we're happy to see that there's already schools seeing increased participation with using some of the tools and the evidence-based approaches that UNH Cooperative Extension has put together, and New England Dairy with their turnkey grants. Please reach out if you have any questions, or if you would like to support within your coalition, your local coalition, or even as an individual in the community where you live. And I just wanted to flag that the Child Nutrition Impact Network, which was a roll-off of this New Hampshire FAC, we have discontinued. Our child nutrition manager is going to be on maternity leave through February. So after February, we are going to try to revamp that meeting. So if you were on that, please stay tuned.
Thanks, Riona. And next we have some updates from UNH Extension. I don't know if Amy or someone else is.
I'm going to do that, Tara.
Oh, Heidi, come on.
All right. Hey, great to see you all. A beautiful day up here from Mount Washington or wherever that summit is. I'm really not on there, but that's my backyard, and always happy to see you all. So we are rolling out some awesome educational opportunities, food access, as well as health and well-being. And last year we created a pathway for our food access work. Part of that includes our unbelievable partnership we have with New Hampshire Food Bank with our nutrition pantry program that we continue to learn more about and just really keep rolling throughout the state. But the first thing that we're going to offer that's part of this educational food access pathway is Create Better Health. It's a staff training for New Hampshire food pantries. It will be an informational session. And last year we had about 10 people participate in this. And it's an opportunity for our pantries to go through a nutrition and culinary physical activity learning experience based on our Utah State collaboration, and then receive more information on other options to build that healthier environment in their pantry based on policy systems and environmental change. So that's going to happen on Tuesday, February 18th. That's a virtual opportunity and informational session again, but to receive that Zoom link, there is an opportunity to register through the flyer that we have, and hopefully all those links are live and you'll be able to access them once these slides go out. But if not, contact me, heidi.barker@unh.edu. The other thing that we're very, very proud of, and my colleague Ziani Ahea is the lead on this, as well as many other people who make this work, is our Master Wellness Volunteer Program. That will be starting with our core course on February 18th. This is an opportunity for people to really get a better understanding on how they can volunteer in, well, it should be Master Wellness Volunteer, not well, but it's just really great. And we've added some opportunities here with our SNAP Ed work, Boost Your Brain, which is an amazing program that one of our field specialists has created. And we're in the middle of a watch party right now, which has about 50 people participating. Mental Health First Aid will be on there, as well as another new one, Youth Wellness. And then Becky Betts will be leading our Walk with Ease. But applications are still being accepted. We are looking forward to seeing more volunteers. That helps with the capacity with a great deal of the work that we're all trying to do here in the state. So that's what I have for you today. And I hope if you have any questions, you'll reach out to me if you need anything. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. And then if someone from the Unitas team is here to talk about the New Hampshire Care Connections, or maybe Jessica, if they are not.
Sorry, I was just giving him a second to see if anybody unmuted because I can't see who's all in the room, but there's lots of people here today, which is great. So just to give everybody an update, you are all hearing the name New Hampshire Care Connections. That is the partnership between the Department of Health and Human Services, Unite Us, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and Granite United Way is 211. This is a closed loop referral system, which allows community-based organizations, healthcare, and public health providers to refer to each other. So, and making sure that people are getting connected to the services that they need and that somebody has case management to be able to help them ensure that they're getting connected. So if somebody gets referred to food insecurity services, SNAP, WIC, emergency food through a pantry, the person who helped them do the referral can go in and check and see if they've been connected to that organization and help them to follow up. These things are evidence-based and they really are showing how much we can improve food insecurity just by getting people connected in through this closed loop referral system. So that's the update. We're working to implement this in partnership with New Hampshire Care Connections all around the state. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to myself or any of your coalition leaders.
Thanks, Jessica. And then speaking of local coalitions, these are some of the different coalitions. So if you're not connected with them, you can see when they meet and what time, and you can always use that sign up form to get updates and stay connected. And then now I want to open it up if anyone has any other updates they want to share, either in the chat or come off mute.
Hey Tara, it's Stacy with New Hampshire Farm to School. I wanted to share that the Local Foods Purchasing Incentive Pilot Program is about to launch. The Department of Ag is supposed to open up the application for schools to apply today. I haven't seen it yet. So I will send it to Hunger Solutions and to a few other folks once I see it. Yesterday, we hosted an informational webinar about it. So I put a link in the chat where you can find a recording of that as well as some other information about it. Colleen.
Hi everyone, Colleen from the New Hampshire Food Alliance, New Hampshire Farm to School. I just wanted to share that today is the last day to provide comments on the nutrition access. I'm going to screw it up. The food nutrition and food access brief, part of the New Hampshire Food and Ag Strategic Plan. I'm going to put the link to provide comments in the chat, but just wanted to give that a little shout out as it's the last day. Thanks.
Thanks, Stacy and Colleen, for those updates. Anyone else before we move on to policy updates? All right. And you're always welcome to throw it in the chat if that's easier, but I will pass it over to Tiffany.
Good morning, everybody. So if you haven't heard yet, Brody, who used to give our policy updates, has moved on to another position, which he's really excited about. We're excited for him. It's a really awesome move for him. And as such, we restructured a little bit, and I'll be working much more in the advocacy policy space. If you received my my email yesterday, then you would have seen that little announcement. Riona, did you want to interrupt and say something?
Yes, sorry. I just received a message for update for WIC. I'm not sure if Susan Winook, if you're available to come off mute to give your WIC update. We bypassed that in the beginning. So I can read what she said. So the WIC food package, there's a new infant food package rolled out on October 1st, 2024. There's changes in infant cereal, and all infants can now receive the same number of jarred fruits and vegetables. we can send details in the minutes. There's a lot of details here. The Belknap Merrimack CAP WIC has also completed their project with Dartmouth Health so that the referrals are being sent directly to the state and then to the local agencies for follow-up and enrollment. And this model will be shared with other healthcare providers, and it's going to increase participation in the WIC program. Thank you, Susan.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rihanna, for giving that update. I really appreciate you chiming in there. All right. Anything else before we scoot along? Make sure we have enough time. Okay. And as always, if you have any updates and you'd like to get into the slides and all of that, then I'm happy to insert those. If you just send me a message before the meeting, and I can either put a slide together for you really quickly based off of our template, or you can send me a slide that I can drop right into our template. So always happy to invite all partners and any partners that have updates to go ahead and send those in. So great. So again, moving on to the policy updates. So I was mentioning that we've restructured a little bit. So my role is now going to be focusing on supporting advocates much more than, so slightly different from what Brody was doing. He was really in the State House and meeting with legislators and all of that, where my role is really focused on building the Food Access Coalition and one of the main priorities of the Food Access Coalition being building advocacy capacity of our partners. And so I'll be really focused on that. I'll be going to all the coalition meetings and helping to identify policy liaisons for each of the regions across the state, because of course I can't be everywhere, and bringing as many advocates and leaders into that work as possible. So I can talk more about that in the context of the policy and advocacy team, but I'm going to dive right into state food and nutrition security policy updates. So just to give you a little refresher of our policy priorities for 2025, we like to talk about our system of food and nutrition supports like a power grid, and ensuring all people are connected and have a strong connection into that grid. So some areas might be a weaker connection and some might be not connected at all. And what that really sets us up for is these challenges that we're trying to address with policies. In the very top one being eligibility gaps for nutrition support. So we know that there are people eligible that are not signed up, and there's barriers that exist for that to happen. And so we want to address those. And especially in this legislative session, we're looking at Feed New Hampshire Kids as our mantra. And so for those specific challenges, there are challenges within school districts that have to do with budgets and federal reimbursements and just capacity as a whole. And we've heard a lot of those, especially with our child nutrition team, and worked to hopefully propose legislation that helps to solve a lot of those issues. Families are struggling, as we know. We're all probably feeling the squeeze also with the cost of living increases. And then, of course, New Hampshire is a slim government, and it's part of the dream of living in New Hampshire, and also some of the drawback in some ways. So when it comes to social programs and supports, then that's something that we really have to make the case for, about how that investment is really going to invest in our future. And that's why it matters, is because when we invest in children, we know that we can have a prosperous future for New Hampshire. And so the solutions that we've looked at for the 2025 legislative session is Medicaid direct certification. You've probably heard of this if you've been with us for a little bit now, is to automatically enroll eligible children that are on Medicaid for free or reduced price school meals. And so that would be a direct certification process that comes with a few things that we can talk about in the context of some of the other legislation that is being proposed, but this is just more about sort of our policy solutions. We want to ensure more low-income children can eat free meals at school by increasing eligibility. Also helping to address stigma at school and reduce school meal debt and help schools shoulder that burden. Also requiring all schools to offer both breakfast and lunch so that no child is left hungry at school and they all have the opportunity to eat at school. And then creating an online application to apply for free or reduced meals so that families can do this in the comfort of their own home, and it streamlines the process for all schools across New Hampshire as well as for parents. So the impact of these policies that we expect is that more kids are going to be able to eat nutritious meals at school, which is really exciting, both breakfast and lunch. It's a proven thing that children thrive when they're fed. I mean, that's an easy, obviously, conjecture to make, but especially for school breakfast, which has low participation, and not everybody even offers it, all the schools. So we want to lessen that burden and provide that opportunity. Again, less school burden, so reducing the school meal debt for schools can help them focus on doing what they need to do, which is nourishing their students and their communities. Full plates without shame. So one of the policy solutions about not giving an alternative meal to students that have school meal debt. We want to make sure that children can access these meals in all situations and not feel that embarrassment or shame. Nourished for success, when they have access to nutritious meals, every single day at school, and then also the easier application process, giving that lower threshold and that lower burden. So I'm going to talk about this I wanted to review that because not all of our bills yet have bill numbers. And I created this last night, and then this morning, a bunch of bill numbers dropped. So now I have most of the bill numbers here, but I've introduced a simplified way to look at our legislative process. If you've been with us again for a little while, you may have seen this column that showed different colors and all the different spaces and how legislation happens. I've simplified it, so it gives you a really quick indicator. You can just look at this figure and see where we are at in the legislative process. So up here, we have the legislative process. We have a few steps in the process. So it's before it becomes a bill, it's called a legislative service request, or an LSR. I took out some of the lingo too, so it's really, really easy to read. The next step is going to be the first body, either the House or the Senate. And so that's indicated when we look at each of the bills, and I'll show you that. Within each of the bodies, it will go to a committee, the floor for a vote, and then likely finance if there's money attached to it, and then back to the floor for another vote. There are other twists and turns along the way that can happen, but that's the real basic process there. Once it gets through both of the bodies and both of those committee processes and hearings and all those things, then it could go to a committee of conference where they have to reconcile any differences or any amendments that have been made during the process. And then, if we're lucky, we can get all the way to the governor's desk and get the governor to sign it. And so the last thing to talk about is just our bill position too, whether or not we support or oppose the bill. You'll see a few defensive bills that we're going to have to keep an eye on this legislative session. Any questions about the process or any of these symbols before I dive into where we are so far? Great. And I do want to say we're early in the process, and you might have seen in my update that I sent the other day that there's been a little bit of a delay in the legislature on getting bill numbers out and bill language out. So a lot of them haven't been scheduled yet, and we didn't have bill numbers for many of them. So Medicaid direct certification. This is the first bill number that we received. This would automatically enroll eligible children on Medicaid for free or reduced price meals. It has currently been introduced in the House and been referred to the committee. However, it does not have a public hearing scheduled yet. This is going to be heard first in the House Education Funding Committee. So right now, what we're focusing on is preparing testimony. So if you want to speak about this bill, if you want to submit written testimony, then we're going to ask you to go ahead and start writing your letters and be prepared to submit those, because it'll probably be like a really quick turnaround where we'll be like, submit your letters, it's tomorrow. So hopefully it won't be that quick of a turnaround, but start preparing. We also do have an action alert to ask you all to send a message to Governor Ayotte to ask for her support on this particular bill. We want to get her eyes on it really early in the process so that she is aware of it, knows what it is, and also can look to the legislators to support that. So that is the first bill. Second bill is increasing eligibility for free school meals. This is the House bill that, and we'll talk about it later, but there's also another bill in the Senate that also increases eligibility. This particular bill increases to 300% of the federal poverty level for free meals. This is again started in the House. It's been referred to the committee and it is waiting for a public hearing to be scheduled. It's going to the House Education Funding Committee. So again, the only ask is to start to prepare your testimony. The testimony for these, they're going to be heard at all different times. So it might seem like a lot to have testimony for each of them. I would definitely ask if you only have capacity to write one or another, we're here to help you with that. We can provide language and we can also help support you in telling your story. So happy to help with that. The next one is establishing an online application for free and reduced price school meals. This one again is started in the House, referred to the House Education Funding Committee, waiting for a public hearing and asking folks to start preparing their testimony. Ending school meal debt shaming. So this would prohibit schools from denying meals or serving alternative meals to students with outstanding meal debt, and helps schools pay for their school meal debt. So again, this one has started in the House and has been referred to the House Education Funding Committee. And again, we're asking you to prepare your testimony. And if you're furiously taking notes, I see a few people that might be. I'm going to send out these slides. You're going to have all the links and all the information, and you'll get that probably before the end of today. So these are the bills that we're still waiting for a bill number on. And we know that these have been introduced. They have legislative service requests. They have LSR numbers, and we're just waiting for those bill numbers to come down. So using Medicaid direct certification as a measure, as a poverty measure. So for this particular bill, it's going to kind of separate that issue of when we identify more kids on free and reduced meals. Go ahead, Laura.
Sorry, it's not using Medicaid direct certification as a poverty measure. It's using Medicaid as a poverty measure. Yeah, yes. I mean, it's very confusing, the bills that relate to Medicaid. So, yeah.
That was a typo on my part. Apologies. Thank you for the correction. So using Medicaid as a poverty measure. And so how this works is it is working to separate out the issue of identifying students that are in poverty that affects the funding formula. So for every student that is on free and reduced meals, the state provides an extra like $2,400 per student. And so when you identify more students and have more students on free and reduced meals, which is what Medicaid direct certification would do automatically for us, then the state has to pay more per student. And it's really money that they should already be paying for these students that are already in need. And so it's just a better measure of poverty, really. And so this overlaps, but also helps to address and divide those. Is there anything you want to add to that, Laura? It's sort of a complex.
I mean, I think it's worth saying why a hunger organization is seeking a change in the education funding policy. And that is because community eligibility is a program that allows for higher poverty schools to feed all kids at the school level and be reimbursed at a higher level by the federal government. And there are probably about 20 schools that could do it with very little additional cost to the school. And they don't do it because when you participate in community eligibility, you don't collect the free and reduced forms. So they're very worried about losing those adequacy dollars that are linked to poverty in the state school funding formula. So really, really complex. We have an explainer on that that I can put in the chat. But it really, I mean, it's a way of both getting, measuring poverty accurately, getting schools better compensated for the work that they're already doing, and finally feeding more kids in school.
Right. Does anybody have any questions about that before I talk about other things? Other pieces of legislation? Okay. Great.
This is Tori
Um,
with New Hampshire Health Association. Do we know if there are any schools currently participating in this program, the community eligibility in New Hampshire?
There's only a handful of them. I can't remember the exact numbers.
There are two.
Two.
Right now, the Bluff School in Claremont and the Winchester School are the only two that are participating.
Any other questions?
Can I chime in on that and add some additional information about CEP in our state is that there's no one school district in our state that would reach 100% reimbursable by the federal government under the community eligibility provision, which means that any school in our state that participates right now would have to pay the difference of federal full reimbursement and federal partial reimbursement. So just so you know, like definitely we're talking to schools about it and seeing what opportunities there are, but there would be some additional supports needed in order for schools in New Hampshire to fully participate in CEP. And Medicaid direct certification would help increase that direct certification number and improve the likelihood of other schools being able to participate in our state.
Any other comments, questions, thoughts that people would like to add? Thank you for the additional comments, Laura and Jessica. There's a lot to know about it and a lot to explain about it. So there was a question in the chat on whether or not we have explainers on this, and we'll certainly have one-pagers and explainers that help to break this down, especially when thinking about advocating for these bills and talking to legislators. So more to come. I'll share them as soon as we have them. So another increasing eligibility for free school meals. This one expands the eligibility for free school meals to, oh, that's another typo, 200% of the federal poverty level, which is the one that is in the Senate. So in the House, it's asking 300%, and the Senate is currently at 200%. And then requiring breakfast and lunch at all schools is a House bill that we're also waiting for a bill number on. So these are all in the pre-bill status, but they do have language that's been submitted, and we're waiting for the final bill number. Okay, other bills that could impact nutrition equity. So there are several here that we're opposing. So this is the list that we have so far. There are still bills that we're kind of waiting for language on, so you might see more come out. And also, we're happy to also hear from the rest of you all that if you have eyes on things that we should also be concerned about. So the first one here imposes a 90-day residency requirement for local assistance. And so this is really detrimental for our unhoused communities, especially. And so you'll see this has a public hearing on, I'm forgetting, one is on Thursday and one is on Friday. Those went out in the email yesterday, those specifics. You can sign in or submit testimony in opposition of these, and we would highly recommend doing that. Again, the links for these will go out in an email today, and I'll send a really good synopsis of the actions that you can take today to oppose or support any of these.
They're actually
Yeah.
both going tomorrow. One's at 11:15, one's at 11:30.
Oh, did that change?
319 and 348. No, they've always been both going tomorrow.
Oh, the docket
They're
has
just in different committees.
the docket has one on Thursday and one on Friday.
Okay, maybe
I
messed
misread
that
it. We'll clarify that.
That could be me.
It will go out in the final email, and you'll see exactly how and when to help with that. So the second bill, HB 319, removes the requirement for school districts to provide transportation and meals to half-day kindergarten students. So obviously we would clearly oppose this bill, and could be the only meal that some kids are getting is at kindergarten. So the public hearing is scheduled, and so you can sign in or submit testimony in opposition of this bill. HB 517 repeals the Granite State Paid Family Leave Plan, a really important support for New Hampshire families and also small businesses to be able to provide some sort of income and insurance long family paid medical leave while mothers are off on maternity leave. So this one is currently in the committee, and we're waiting to hear when it will be scheduled for a hearing. So you can prepare for a public hearing by preparing testimony and thinking about how you'd like to oppose that bill. HB 458 limits local assistance to U.S. citizens or permanent legal residents, obviously a huge equity issue and a concern for food insecurity for this population. Again, that is in committee and preparing. You can prepare for a public hearing to be scheduled. Okay, good. Thank you for clarifying, Laura. And then HB 132 repeals liability for family support under Chapter 165, aid to assisted persons. So again, clearly something that would impact families and their ability to make ends meet at the end of the day. So all of these could really have a detrimental impact on very specific populations, and especially families and other communities. So that one again is in committee, and you can prepare for the public hearings on that. I see Tori has added one regarding HB 348. New Hampshire Welfare Association has adopted a 30-day lockback for local residency. Do you want to say that? Do you want to talk about that a little bit more, Tori?
It should be a look back. Sorry for the typo. And yes, I think if folks are concerned about the 90 days, which we should be, just a heads up that welfare is saying we want to know where you were in the last 30 days, because I think it would be a challenge for most of our unsheltered folks or housing insecure folks to document their residencies, because they are usually not the same place within 90 days. So just something to keep in mind if you're interested in responding to that bill.
Thank you, Tori. Thanks for that additional thought. Mike, do you want to talk about HB 415?
I want to cry about HB 415, actually. This is legislation which will be heard today, which would repeal the requirement that school districts provide menstrual products to their female students in middle and high schools across the state. Obviously a concern, well, not obviously, definitely a concern to us.
Thank you for sharing, Mike. I appreciate it. And happy to have you bring updates to this group if you want to continue bringing updates as well and keeping us abreast of that. Any other, I think I actually have the next slide is like anything that we missed. Any other bills that people are aware of that we should know about that folks are really concerned about, most especially thinking about food insecurity for this group, food access, food systems? And generally, does anybody have any questions about the bills that we've already gone over?
Quick question for Mike. Mike, does the testimony, if you're doing it in writing, have to go before today, or do we have up until tonight? But
I'm not sure about that. I know I'll be there in person.
Usually you can submit testimony online until the end of the day that the hearing is happening.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
Hey, Tiffany, are there any bills looking at the SNAP benefits for seniors with how their Social Security was raised, but yet it's imbalanced and they're losing benefits?
I don't know of any. Laura, do you wanna?
There's no legislation at the moment, but I suggest that if you think that people have been improper, their benefits have been improperly lowered, that you refer folks to 603 legal aid. Legal assistance shared at the SNAP Coalition that they had a case where somebody's benefits were lowered lower than the increase in Social Security would have warranted. So if it seems like there's really precipitous drop, or it's not related to the actual number of the increase, then it's worth having a legal organization double check. In the case that Ray Burke had, I think it was that they improperly applied the utility allowances. So there are SNAP is a super complex program, and so mistakes get made, and so it's worth checking.
Okay, thanks. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? I see a few people have to drop off. Thanks so much for those that have come, and we'll keep on keeping on for this meeting. But if you have to go, then thanks so much for joining. So last few things that I'll say about policy and advocacy is that we do have a group that is dedicated to meeting more regularly and really diving into the policy and advocacy space. So we're working on potentially a few projects this year that are going to revolve around story collection, as well as providing some opportunities for folks to connect with their legislators in the form of maybe some in-district meetings and an advocacy day that we're working on. So more to come on that, but if you'd like to be involved in those things or those excite you, then please definitely send me an email, and I'm happy to connect and invite you into those meetings. Right now, we're meeting the actually, I don't think that we've established a regular meeting time, but it will be twice a month, probably either the first and third, or the second and fourth week of the month. So to be determined. And I did want to just point out that we've received a lot of information about federal policy and a lot of concern about federal policy. I don't have a full update for you in this particular meeting, and I hear all your concerns. We plan to provide federal policy updates in the future, and we'll keep you abreast of those. Just a note to say, we haven't missed it, or just haven't provided it in this particular meeting, and we'll also share those in the weekly Granite State reports that we're going to send out to you as well. Go ahead, Laura.
It's always a good idea to reach out to your member of Congress and just let them know how important it is to you personally, to the communities you work with, that SNAP be protected, that WIC be protected and fully funded, that Medicaid and TANF be funded at their current levels, which are low. So we will post things as we have them. But it's never too early to reach out to your member of Congress. Our delegation is generally very protective of those programs, but in the trade-offs that may happen at the congressional level, it's always worth making your voice heard, that we should not be allowing the most vulnerable people to be harmed. Thanks.
In the interest of time, I'm going to scoot us on and pass this off to Tara to get us started into our presentation about what's coming, what we've already done for the New Hampshire Food Access Coalition, and sort of reacquaint you with the Food Access Coalition and why we're here and what we're doing, what we're all about. So take it away, Tara.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to switch gears a little bit. So I don't know about you, but if anyone needs to take a little stretch, I know hour and a half meetings can be a lot. So, re-wake yourself up. But yeah, like Tiffany said, we want to reacquaint you with our mission and vision and kind of look at the priorities, reflect on this past year and look ahead. So this is the vision, a diverse, well-connected coalition that uses its collective voice to ensure that all people in New Hampshire can achieve nutrition equity and participate in creating a sustainable, resilient, and just local food system. And how do we do this? So by connecting stakeholders, raising awareness about root causes, through collaboration, advocacy, all in an effort to foster nutrition equity for all people in New Hampshire. And so these are the 4 priority areas of the New Hampshire Food Access Coalition. So priority 1, engaging and connecting communities and organizations. Priority 2, educating people about hunger and its causes. Priority 3, collaborating to address systemic and root causes of hunger. And then priority 4, building power among leaders and communities to advocate for equitable access to nutritious, sustainable local food. And so share a little bit more about the leadership team as well as the backbone team. So right now it is Tiffany and I. Tiffany Sweat, who was at the New Hampshire Food Bank, was part of the backbone team, but right now there's currently an open space. And we do a lot of the, building of PowerPoints, but we do it all from the direction of the leadership team. So the leadership team consists of Tara Lynn from Dartmouth Health, Joanne from New Hampshire Hunger Solutions Board, Jessica from New Hampshire Hunger Solutions, Amy Holler from UNH Extension, Colleen Jennings from New Hampshire Food Alliance, Stacy Perslow from New Hampshire Farm to School, and Shirley Tomlinson from the Office of Health Equity. And so they kind of guide the direction and provide input on things that Tiffany and I kind of propose to them. And so for those that are currently participating in the coalition, we have about 370-ish members who, and this is kind of like the breakdown of each of the partners. And I will preface that these were, these were chosen based on our best guess, best educated guess. So maybe your organization might find yourself in a different category, but to the best of our knowledge, this is kind of how people fall. So you can see we have a lot of nonprofit members, a lot of government and university members engaged, and a lot of community members just coming on their own. And then some things to celebrate from this past year. We added new backbone members. So Tiffany Sweat and I had joined at kind of at the end of 2023, but we really got going early 2024. The Hunger Free New Hampshire Act, it started out bigger, but we got through summer EBT and the elderly simplified application. We hosted listening sessions for the Nutrition Equity Summit. We hosted listening sessions just to hear from you all about what you're hearing in your communities, and then provided presentations. We did some nutrition incentive presentations. I think there was one on New Hampshire Feeding New Hampshire and summer food service program. So lots more to come with that for this coming year. We hosted the New Hampshire Equity Summit. Over 100 attendees came. And then we ended the year by providing an advocacy training and then an action day. So a lot happened. It seems like not a lot when you sum it up like this, but lots to celebrate. And then again, just another way to celebrate, had 523 advocates, over 10,000 emails sent, 316 state legislature. It's cut off on my screen. legislators contacted and 226 governor contacts. So another reason to celebrate. But I'll pass it to Tiffany to, well, first, before I pass it over to her, if there's anything that we missed that's worth celebrating, please add it to the chat. I'll see if anyone, oh,
Also,
oh,
feel free to
thanks.
come
Thanks,
off mute
everyone.
if you want to add anything or comment or what have you. Okay. I see some celebrations in the chat, and all of this is thanks to all the partners that we engage with and all of your hard work. So it is such a feat, the things that we were able to carry out over 2024, and we're really looking forward to making 2025 even bigger and better with some really clearly defined goals and things that we want to work towards. So we can start thinking through those things right now. So in 2025, I separated these out by priority area. We separated these out by priority area just to say too, these goals were worked on and refined in the leadership team. So again, if you're interested in being a part of the leadership team and helping with this refining process, then please definitely reach out. It is not by any means necessarily a closed group, but certainly one that we ask you to be engaged with and regularly attend. So if you have the capacity and would like to be involved in these specific meetings, we'd love to have you. And so these specific goals were refined by the leadership team and came from you all. So we mentioned all these listening sessions. At the end of each year, we tend to do some listening sessions related to what do you see in the coming year and how should we move forward. So these were born out of those things. So for the first goal, we're talking about establishing a community of practice for food council and coalition leadership. So if you are on a food counselor coalition and in the local space, or even for the Food Access Coalition, you're on a leadership team, we really want to come together and be able to share ideas and experiences and different projects that people are working on across the state, because there's some really amazing, innovative things going on, and it's so much better when we can come together and share that information. And then also we're planning for a Nutrition Equity Summit in the spring of 2026. So we did spring, and then we tried for fall, and then we found out the fall wasn't it. So we're going back to working towards a summit in the spring. Also, not to compete, however, with the statewide food gathering. So we'll work out the logistics of that probably much earlier spring than the statewide food gathering. So we really want to have a team of people that are engaged and interested in helping to be part of that. The next priority area, to educate people about hunger, we want to really work on aligning messaging. And so one way that we can do that is to develop and create messaging that can be used on social media and have this coordinated attack, I guess, on social media, if you will, where all of our partner organizations are sharing all the same things all at the same time. And so we have these coordinated messaging things going out. And then we also want to foster some shared learning where we're doing this anyways, but it's really important to put this down on paper and on screen to say that we want to have a goal of having 5 workshops that contain at least 2 partners each over the course of the year. So during the normal Food Access Coalition meetings, we come together and we share information. And so it's really important that we put that as like, this is actually something that we're doing every year, but it's really important to highlight that we're doing these things and that it's really sharing valuable information across the community. Priority 3, to collaborate to address systemic and root causes of hunger. This has a lot of different ones, and some of them are interrelated and stepwise, if you will. So Hunger Solutions has already started conversations and started working with a few partners on thinking about an assessment, and the size and scope of that assessment is still very much underway, and local communities are doing their own assessment. So really we want to set a goal to be able to design and gain IRB approval in the 2026 year to be able to work towards that. And then we can, within the 2026 year, start to gather data. And so the goal is to have at least 10 different partners engage in helping to collect that data. And that's probably a low number, but we like to shoot for for a realistic number that we can hope to achieve within all of our communities here. Of course, advocate to feed New Hampshire kids. So we have this coordinated advocacy effort that you all are participating in with some really specific numbers of how many legislators that we want to hit this year and how many advocates we want to engage. Sharing stories. So I talked about the New Hampshire Food Access Coalition policy and advocacy team working on a story collection project. So this relates to that and will help with advocacy likely more in the 2026 year than this year. And then of course we want to identify priorities for 2026. So towards the end of this year, within 2025, we want to make sure we're hosting a listening session and getting that all ready to go for the 2026 year. And then for the last one, building power among leaders and communities to advocate for equitable access to nutritious food. So you're going to notice that this doesn't include doing advocacy as much as it is like training to do advocacy. So these goals very much are specific to that, where we want to make sure that we have a centralized location where we're gathering tools for advocates to use. So that's probably going to be in the form of a website, but also work with our advocacy partners to create that repository. And then I mentioned earlier that we'd really like to recruit regional policy liaison for each region of the state so that we have both the eyes and the ears on the ground so we can hear about local communities and the challenges that they're facing. And also so that when we say we've got this legislator is on this committee for this district, and I'm going to call up Jackie from the Lakes region and say, can you find me an advocate in the school who can come to this this in-person public hearing and be able to provide testimony. Having those deep connections through the community is so important for us to be able to be really effective in our collective advocacy together. And of course, we want to train people. We want to get people trained up on being able to do this advocacy and feel really comfortable calling their legislators and having those conversations, sitting down and having coffee. It's not as scary as you might think. And so we want to make sure that folks are trained up and can do those things well. So let's talk about, don't worry, I'm not going to send you into breakout rooms. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. So we're doing this a little differently. We did breakout rooms first with a really like low bar, so you didn't have to bring too much thought to it. But what we're going to do is we're going to use some different tools. So you'll kind of hang with me here to talk about the things, the goals and whatnot. And I am aware of the time, so I might have to like scoot through these a little bit quickly here. So these are our questions that we're going to walk through. But again, I'm going to use a tool to do this. So what we want to hear about is your most valuable takeaway from participating in the Food Access Coalition. And the reason that we want to know this is we want to see how this progresses over the years. Like right now is the beginning of 2025. At the beginning of 2026, are we going to see this move towards more of the collective action? Is it going to be connecting? Is it going to be, what's going to be the most important thing that you're taking away here? What specific goals does your organization have related to nutrition equity for 2025? This is going to help us like take a look, take our blinders off potentially, because we only have so many folks in the leadership team and backbone to say, what are other people working on that maybe aren't reflected in these goals that need to be? And then the very last part is to see where you see yourself in these goals. So we have some activities that help you be able to do this on screen. So you'll see it. Very exciting. Here we go. It's going to start. So what you can do, you can go to this website here. I'm going to copy the link into the chat and you can click on that link. And what you can do is you'll be able to put in your answers about what is your most valuable takeaway from participating in the Food Access Coalition. And you'll see people's answers pop up as they put them in, and you can upvote or downvote. I hope nobody's downvoting anybody, but you can upvote things that you agree with or that you find also to be the most valuable pieces that you're taking away. So we want to find the most popular and the most exciting takeaways. So I'm going to give folks a minute to work that through. Feel free to come off mute. Tell me if you're having technical challenges on figuring it out. And you can also use this QR code in the upper right-hand corner if you'd rather use your phone to do it. Let me know how I can support you, but feel free. We'll start seeing responses as soon as people start entering them. I think I know who put that first one. So let's see, as we're getting them, collective impact makes a difference. Increase awareness on issues and policy. Excellent structure to facilitate collective impact to improve nutrition equity in New Hampshire. You need well-established systems and structures to solve complex problems like hunger. Let's see, you should be able to see others' answers on your screen too, so feel free to start upvoting things. We see meeting new people, learning about people's work, getting support for my own work. Great. The regular updates on legislation, connections. See better understanding of legislative process and which bills are being introduced, engaging organizations across sectors around food and nutrition security. Top one is still meeting new people, learning about people's work, getting support for my own work. That's great. So we see 2 related to legislation. That's amazing. Connections, lots about connections. Getting to hear what's going on across the state. Knowing which organizations are advocating for the same issue. Yes, we're all rowing in the same direction. Let's make sure that we have the same message. These are great. Ability to collaborate towards a common goal. We have 3 people that were able to become staff members of Hunger Solutions, huh? Here. Let's see. Building connections, collaborating. That's great. I'll give people another moment to kind of look through the list and upvote, add more if you're not seeing. I'm seeing kind of slow down up here. So some changes down here. That's great. So many answers. That's lovely. Okay, I'm going to move us on to the next slide, just in the interest of time. Thank you so much for adding your responses. I don't know how to move. There it is. So the next one is, what specific goals does your organization have related to nutrition equity for 2025? So this is where you can tell us about things that your organization is working on so that we can ensure that they are a part of and included in the goals that we have presented to you today, which we'll come back to. And I should have mentioned it should just move you on to the next in the same screen. So. I'm seeing increasing offering of nutrition education, collaborating and volunteering with our local community dinner, increasing offering of nutrition education across the state, provide information on local food access options, keeping New Hampshire informed of food equity issues, testify on legislation, love it, support community sites and organizations in implementing strategies that increase opportunities for healthy eating, active living, and nutrition security. That sounds like a really well-written goal there. Somebody may have copied and pasted that one, I feel like. That's great. Increase SNAP awareness and assist older adults with the application process. Let's see if anybody has the same goals. Let's see. Strengthen partnerships, community networks, and multi-sector coalitions that support equitable access to healthy eating, active living, and nutrition security. Expanding shelf-stable food bags. That's great. More than one person working on that. I'm not sure if people are upvoting because they like it or upvoting because they're also working on those things. But upvote it if you're also working on those things or would like to include them in your own goals. All right, I'm going to give another 10 seconds. I'll count down before I move the slide. So get your answers in, do your upvoting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now you see this picture on your screen. You should be able to drop a pin in this screen. So what we are looking for is where you see yourself in these two goals, if you see yourself in these two goals. And it should be also, it collects your information like who you are. So as you're doing this, so you can drop a pin either in this area here or this area here, if you see yourself in either of these goals, yourself or your organization. And if you've entered your name, it collects that information for us too. So I'll be calling you up and saying, hey, I got this thing going. Join me. So we'll give people another few moments here. Joanne's got balloons in her screen. Not seeing any more clicks. I'm going to give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so this is priority area 2, educating people about hunger and its root causes. So we have the 2 goals of aligning messaging and foster shared learning. So if you're thinking that you want to be somebody that's giving a presentation, make sure that your name's in there and put your little pin in there, because I'll be calling you up later in the year when we're looking for presenters. See lots with aligned messaging. So if you're willing to share on your platforms, in your listservs, on your social media, definitely drop a pin, because I'll be calling you up, asking you to help us out. All right, I'll give people 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, priority area 3. So we have designing an assessment and then collaborating to collect data on that assessment, as well as advocating to Feed New Hampshire Kids. Our goal is to engage 550 advocates. So I hope to see every single one of your dots in there. And then we have sharing stories. So if you're interested in helping with story collection or learning about it and being a story collector, that's a good one to put in there. And then of course, identifying 2026 priorities. I hope that you all see yourselves in that goal as well. And I hope to see all of your dots there. Maybe a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On to the next, maybe. There we go. And the last priority of building power among leaders and communities to advocate for equitable access to nutritious, sustainable local food. Gathering tools for advocacy. If you could participate in creating those tools, if you could participate in sharing information on where those tools are housed, that's a great place to put your pin. Recruiting regional policy liaisons. If you want to be a policy liaison, let me know, and I will be reaching out to you. If you wanted to learn more about advocacy and maybe be a train the trainer kind of scenario where you learn so much about advocacy that you can train other people in your communities on advocacy, that's a great place to put that dot as well. I'll give you another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How'd we do? Okay. Some of you are jumping up. This is it. Goodbye. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment here. If I can find the right. Oh no. Here we go. Stop sharing. Hi, this was so much fun. Thank you for participating in the meeting today and participating in that fun activity. Feel free to come off mute and chat about this experience today, but otherwise I'm happy to cut you all loose. And especially if you have any other questions, feel free to come off mute. But otherwise, we expect to see you back here on February 26th, the normal meeting time. And we look forward to giving you more updates. Until then. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.